rule the ice now.
Hole in one! Whoa!
Julian!
Whoa! Oh, sorry.
We all know them from our childhood, from those famous Ice Age movies. Those furry, enormous, wise, and somewhat lonely giants. But what if we could see these giants not just on screen, but literally walking among us? Sounds like a fun idea, doesn't it? But the real world isn't an animated movie. The real world is much colder and much more surprising. Let's embark on this exploration together and see what happens in the light of science. In the desolate and frozen tundra of Siberia, a profound silence has reigned for millennia. But in 2013, a discovery was made that broke the silence. When the excavation team broke through the ice sheet, no one knew what they would find. But at that moment, what emerged from the ice was not a fossil. It was as if she had died yesterday. In the frozen ground of Siberia, scientists have discovered the remains of a female mammoth that is approximately 40,000 years old. But this wasn't just a dry fossil of bone. The mammoth's muscle tissue was still bright red. And even more astonishing, when the ice was punctured, a dark liquid began to seep out. 40,000-year-old liquid mammoth blood. Let's pause here and think for a moment. For us, the concept of extinction usually means an irreversible end. When the last member of a species dies, the story of that species ends. But what if it hasn't? What if nature has preserved copies of these gigantic creatures in icy chests for us? Today, we are on the verge of opening those chests. Today in Axurin, we'll be exploring why mammoths became extinct, how we can biologically bring them back, and most importantly, why we should do it. If you're ready, let's begin this journey. The Age of Giants and the Great Collapse. Until about 10,000 years ago, mammoths were the undisputed rulers of the Northern Hemisphere. These giants, the furry cousins of modern elephants, were actually a part of our story. While humans were lighting fires, they were walking on the same lands. They weren't just animals, they were the engineers of their ecosystems. So, what happened that caused these powerful, resilient creatures to suddenly disappear from history? Generally, there are two culprits: climate change and human hunting. Early humans hunted mammoths. They used them for food, tools, and shelter. Even a small amount of hunting pressure would have been enough to decimate an already fragile population. The truth was probably a combination of both, a changing world and a new predator. Together, they wiped the giants from the face of the earth. But recent data paints a more tragic picture. While most mammoths became extinct on the mainland, a small group on Wrangel Island managed to survive for another 4,000 years. While the Giza pyramids were being built in Egypt, mammoths were still breathing on this island. But in this isolated group, genetic diversity decreased, mutations accumulated, and eventually, nature turned its back on them. When the last mammoth died, it left behind not just stories, but ice containing its DNA. Chapter 3: Is a biological resurrection perfect? Here's where the real question begins. Can we bring a species back from its grave? The scientific community calls this de-extinction. And no, this isn't a Jurassic Park scenario.
There's no unauthorized breeding in Jurassic Park.
Unlike dinosaurs, mammoths have fresh DNA.
But in any sense, this is the video, and bear with the sound quality, it's slightly poor.
This is really cool. What we've just found, you can see, is 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of mammoth bone here.
However, as evolutionary biologist Dr. Beth Shapiro also points out, since DNA breaks down over thousands of years, cloning the found cells exactly seems impossible at the moment. According to Shapiro, The real goal should be to revive the ecological functions of the mammoth, rather than creating an exact replica. This is where the second, more realistic approach comes into play: genetic engineering. This method, pioneered by geneticist Dr. George Church and his team from Harvard University, uses CRISPR technology.
You ask what can CRISPR do? Well, CRISPR is already in clinical trials for human mutations.
In a laboratory filled with white lights, the genome of an Asian elephant is taken and patched with the genes that made it a mammoth. Small ears, a thick layer of fat, and that famous fur. Church and his team aren't actually building a purebred mammoth. They're designing a hybrid elephant that's cold-resistant and possesses mammoth characteristics. This means playing with the codes of biology. We're trying to make an organism resemble a past version of itself by updating its software. Let's say we succeed. The first mammoth-elephant hybrid leaves the laboratory and breathes in the cold Siberian wind for the first time. Is this a victory or a tragedy? Let's ask from the rationality of science. This creature will not have a mother, a herd, a society to teach it how to become a mammoth. Elephants are social animals. To leave it alone in the tundra. Isn't that condemning a living creature to loneliness just for the sake of our curiosity? Beth Shapiro sharply questions the ethical implications of spending our resources on resurrecting a species that died out thousands of years ago, instead of protecting elephants that are already alive and endangered today. But there's also an ecological side to the coin. George Church's vision paints a much broader picture. The world is no longer the same world it used to be, and ecosystems have changed. According to Church, bringing mammoths back to the tundra could slow global warming. Mammoths could prevent the permafrost, that is, the frozen ground beneath, from thawing by trampling the snow and crushing the soil. And they can prevent massive amounts of methane gas from being released into the atmosphere. So they could be the biological climate controllers of the world. Here we enter a philosophical paradox. If you genetically modify an Asian elephant piece by piece and turn it into a mammoth, is it still an elephant? Or is it now a mammoth? Just like Theseus's ship, with all its parts replaced. Where does originality begin, and where does it end? Perhaps our efforts to bring back mammoths are actually an attempt to atone for ourselves. It is humanity's desire to give back what we have taken from nature, but we must not forget that the greatest achievement is not bringing back what is lost, but preserving what exists. But the real question is, if we bring the mammoths back, will they forgive us? With elephants living today facing extinction, how sensible is it to chase after a ghost that died 4,000 years ago? The story of mammoths shows us this. Nature never completely destroys anything, it only changes form. Science and technology are opening doors for us that once seemed impossible. Maybe in 10 years, maybe in 50 years. According to some scientists, what we are bringing back may not be a species, but a new beginning that we cannot control. We might see mammoths again on the Siberian plains with their enormous tusks and furry bodies. But when that day comes, the question we'll be asking won't be, can we do this? It will be, why are we doing this? And will we be able to give them the life they deserve? Knowledge is power, but using that power wisely is the real art. History is written not only by looking at the past, but by considering how to carry the past into the future. And perhaps mammoths are a warning from our past and a hope for our future. Science produces answers, but every answer gives rise to a new question. And perhaps the mammoths never really left. They are just waiting quietly in time. This is Accident. Stay curious and stay with science.